7 years into our marriage. I think my husband may have cheated on me. In the middle of the night, he came home dead drunk, his subordinate helping him as they knocked on the front door. I soothed our daughter back to sleep after she was woken, wiped his body clean, and propped up his pillow so he wouldn't choke on his own vomit. He stroked my face and, in a thick, slurred voice, sighed, "Man, you're still the best to me." Looking at his sleeping profile, I didn't close my eyes all night. After all, I was the one who treated him the best. That meant someone had treated him badly. 1. The password to Zhou Xichen's phone was my birthday. I had always known that. It's just that I think everyone should have a certain amount of personal space. So I have never checked his mobile phone. Married for 7 years. He is a qualified husband and a good father. I trust him a bit. And naturally I can't find a reason to look at his phone. But today, I suddenly became a little curious. He was in a deep sleep. The smell of liquor on him so strong it was almost overpowering. His breathing heavy and long, so drunk he was unconscious. I found his phone in his coat pocket and entered the passcode to unlock it. However, I was disappointed. There was nothing in his phone. The desktop wallpaper was a photo of me and our daughter, Little Pumpkin. And so was the lock screen. His WeChat was spotless. Nothing but work messages. Meituan was the Samino unfam. Illier hotel charges or food delivery addresses. Alipay also showed no suspicious transfer records. No social networking apps had been installed. It was so clean that it even made me doubt my own judgment a little. I put down my phone and stared at Zhou Xichen's face for quite a while. Alf. Oof, the doubts in my heart had not completely dissipated. I also had to admit, perhaps I really had been overthinking it. 2. The next morning at breakfast, I brought it up to Zhou Xichen as if it were just an offhand remark. "Do you remember what you said last night when you were drunk?" Zhou Xichen's motion of drinking his porridge paused. He lifted his eyes and glanced at me, his expression giving no hint of guilt. "What did I say? Did I badmouth you?" I kept my face calm and looked at him steadily. "Think again." Zhou Xichen took a big gulp of congee and shook his head. "Can't remember." I blacked out. Would still have any impression of it. Before I could say anything, he added, "You know how I am when I drink. Once I'm tipsy, I start talking nonsense. Whatever I said last night was just drunken rambling. So don't take it seriously." I stirred the congee in my bowl, a faint smile creeping to the corners of my lips. "Is that so? I don't think you were talking nonsense." Zhou Xichen's movements visibly slowed, and his expression grew a little more solemn. He stared straight at me for several seconds before speaking again. "What exactly did I say?" His tone carried a hint of wariness and unease he himself had never even noticed. I looked at his face. Under my gaze, he began to feel a little uneasy and sheepishly averted his eyes. After a long while, I suddenly laughed out loud and said, "You said you'd only love me for the rest of your life. What? Now that you're sober, it doesn't count." Zhou Xichen looked as if a huge weight had suddenly been lifted from him. I thought I'd said something unforgivably outrageous or something. "You really scared me." Then he smiled again and said, "All right. I take back what I just said. But this time I'm not talking nonsense. Who in the company doesn't know I dote on my wife the most?" I smiled and said nothing more. 3. Zhou Xichen went off to work. I took my daughter, Little Pumpkin, to school. Little Pumpkin had just started the younger kindergarten class. She got along fairly well with the other children in her class, and her teachers also liked her personality. And I handed my daughter over to the teacher. She was still all excited, waving at me and saying, "Bye-bye, Mom." She was a sharp contrast to the children around her, who looked as though they had a bone to pick with the world just because they had to go to school. After saying goodbye to my daughter, I was getting ready to drive home, but then the phone resting on the center console suddenly chimed, and a WeChat message popped up. It was sent by Zhou Siken, but he quickly withdrew it. Probably because he sent it to the wrong person, although that message only popped up for a brief instant. And I still saw it. Don't joke like that. Didn't we take precautions last time? The sunlight outside the car was viciously harsh, searing through the window until the skin on my back stung. The air conditioner inside the car hadn't been turned on yet, though the heat was muggy and sticky. It felt as if my heart had been plunged into an ice cellar, cold to the core. 4. I pretended not to see that message and drove home. I sat in the study for half the day. My mind was filled with the words Zhou Siken had said last night, and the message I had just received. Actually, speaking strictly, I didn't believe there was such a thing as eternal love in this world. Even if Zhou Siken and I seemed to love each other so deeply, in truth, my dad had never been a faithful man to begin with. For decades after their marriage, he went out indulging in all kinds of revelry, and my mom simply turned a blind eye, as long as my dad still brought money home. She old ignore anything. 4 decades. They kept up the performance day after day, so convincingly that even our relatives thought our family was a model of marital harmony. But if I were to live like that, I'm afraid I couldn't do it. With the cautionary example of my parents' generation right BF, or me, I naturally didn't believe in any vows of eternal love spoken with nothing but words, so I was always prepared for the possibility that Zhou Sichen would cheat. I just never expected this matter to be presented before me in such a dramatic way. If you do the math, Zhou Siken and I have been together for 12 years. We were together in college and got married not long after graduation. After marriage, I started a business with him. He was in charge of technology and organization, and I was in charge of copywriting and publicity. Starting a business is not a simple thing. And, at the most difficult time, I ate instant noodles and pickle porridge with him for a whole week. And I took less than 5 hours of rest every day, because we were afraid that the project would go wrong. We had to do everything ourselves, and we were busy all day. Later, we finally made the original startup decent little by little, getting bigger and bigger, and the prospects were gradually clear. After the first difficult days, our lives gradually got better, and our careers gradually got on the right track. Later, when I became pregnant with a little pumpkin, I slowly retreated behind the scenes, no longer caring about the company's affairs. But I have been silently supporting Zhou Siken behind my back. Everyone around us said we were a perfect match, a golden couple, and that without me, Zhou Siken would never have achieved what he had today, because I had been staying at home to take care of our daughter. I had not gone to the company for a very long time. In my spare time, I would write articles online by myself, and had almost no overlap with Zhou Siken in our work. So naturally, I had no idea what had happened to Zhou Siken at the company, or what new Opal he had met. I sat in the study all morning and didn't manage to write a single word. I kept thinking, if Zhou Siken really cheated, what should I do next? 5. In the afternoon, I got a call from Zhou Siken, asking me to help deliver a set of documents to the company. Chen Ku, the administrative manager at the company, was an old employee who had been with us since the very beginning of the startup, and she was someone I was familiar with as well. When she saw me, she greeted me warmly and said she was ordering afternoon tea for the staff, asking whether I wanted some too. I hadn't planned to stay long, so I politely declined. When Joe Sikhen saw me in the conference room, he looked delighted. He took my hand, unable to hide the smile on his face at all. Man, you've helped me out so much. I really don't know what I'd do without you." The executives below erupted in a chorus of jeers, as if they'd been force-fed a mouthful of dog food. I lowered my eyes and smiled faintly, letting my gaze sweep over everyone present. Most of them were familiar faces. I didn't see anyone whose expressions seemed out of the ordinary. That made sense. Joe Sicheng had always been thorough and reliable in his work. Most likely, he wouldn't arrange for me and the mistress to appear in the same setting, even if the mistress were really there. Joe Sikhen would absolutely never flirt with me in front of her. Then it should be someone below the executive level, or someone outside the company. There was only one thing I hadn't expected: some wildflowers. More often than not, liked to dance right up in front of the real thing. Just as I was still wondering how to find this woman, she took the initiative to come up to me instead. 6. Before leaving, Joe Sikhen told me that the company would be serving afternoon tea later, and that I should stay and have something to eat before going. I couldn't be bothered to explain to him that I had already politely declined the HR manager, so I just nodded without saying anything. Besides, it had been a long time since I'd been here, and I wanted to see what the company had become now. The company's basic policies and benefits were actually first proposed and refined by me. There was a systematic, and clear promotion evaluation and salary increase system, and the management style was relatively flat and people-oriented. As a result, employees were highly loyal to our company, and it was rare for long-time staff who had worked here for years to suddenly decide to resign. For so long, the company had still been operating under the same old system, and it had never changed. As I walked along, quite a few familiar faces greeted me one after another. They kept calling me Sister Man over and over, to the point that I even felt a little embarrassed. Come to think of it, it had actually been a very long time since anyone had called me that. What I'm called most often now is Joe Shrian's mom and Mrs. Joe. It had been a long time since Nyon had called me by my name. Shin Man. Halfway through, I went to the restroom. When I came out and was washing my hands, a young girl beside me was touching up her makeup in front of the mirror. Seeing my face in the mirror, she suddenly cried out, then shouted in an exaggerated tone, "Sist, Shin, your sister Shin, right?" Startled by her, I turned my eyes to look at her. What met my gaze was a face made up with exquisite care. Full cheeks, long curled lashes, and a bold shade of lipstick. A slender oval face, almond-shaped eyes, and a cherry mouth. A very beautiful face. "Who are you?" I asked. In my memory, I seemed not to know this face. Only then did she smile a little sheepishly and say, "Oh, I'm the new intern at the company. My name is Sue Anna." I let out an "oh" and smiled. "That's nice. Very energetic, Ms. Chen. You are too. Your skin is amazing. You can't tell at all that you're already in your 30s. Sue Anna looked at me with a beaming smile. "Mr. Joe always praises you in front of us, saying how beautiful you are. Now that I've seen you in person, it really lives up to the reputation." I pulled out 2 paper hand towels and, while drying my hands, smiled at her. "What else did your Mr. Joe say about me?" She propped her chin on her hand, pouting as she racked her brains for a long while, before finally smiling with a hint of apology. "It seems like that's about all. I haven't really heard him say anything else." At that moment, I didn't hesitate for even a second. I was able to determine right away that this was Joe Sechen's affair partner. Is that so? I tossed the tissue I'd wiped my hands with into the trash can. My tone so casual it was as if I were discussing today's weather. Joe Sichen does often talk to me about the company's affairs. I smiled at her, but he said the new intern doesn't compare very well, in terms of qualifications, to the recent graduates he's had before. Sue Anna stared at me, her expression darkening almost instantly. I tilted my head at her and asked, a little puzzled. He wasn't talking about you. Was he, Miss Sue? 8. Sue Anna must have been deeply bothered by what I said, because she didn't make another sound until I left the restroom. Her entire face had gone so dark it was almost alarming. I chatted with the administrative manager, Chin Koo, for a while and roughly caught up on the company's recent developments. Before long, the afternoon tea the company had ordered was delivered. She personally brought a warm latte to me and handed it over with a smile. Sister Man, your taste hasn't changed over the years, has it? I remember you like this, even though you said there was no need. President Zhou specifically instructed us. So no matter what, I wouldn't dare slight you. I thanked them, and out of the corner of my eye I saw Sue Anna not far away, holding a milk tea, frowning as she kept complaining to her co-worker. I told them I wanted 0-calorie sugar. 0-calorie sugar. It's like they can't understand human language or something. They still ordered me the regular full sugar one. I'm still cutting fat. And they still got me this trashy place. I usually wouldn't even touch any milk tea under Thai bucks. Every word reached my ears, and Chin Koo beside me naturally heard it all as well. Sue Anna. Chin Koo's expression turned dark, and she raised her voice, showing her no courtesy at all. Afternoon tea is an employee benefit, purchased uniformly by the administration department, because there are so many people. The budget and procedures are all set. Customization is not supported. I already made this clear to you before. If the food doesn't suit your taste, you didn't have to order it. Don't take it and then keep complaining here. Only then did Sue Anna notice that the person involved was right there on the scene, and her face turned instantly pale with fright. When she saw me standing beside Chin Koo, her expression turned even uglier. She hunched her back and slunk miserably back to her workstation. I stayed at the company until evening. By my reckoning, it was about time for my daughter to be getting out of school. Thinking back to what the teacher had said today, there was a parent-child game assignment for the evening, something parents had to help their children complete together. So before leaving, I planned to tell Zhou Sichen and ask him to get off work early and come home tonight. But when I reached the door of his office, I heard Sue Anna's voice coming from inside. President Zhou. Chin Koo criticized me again in front of the entire office today. She's way too much. She didn't leave me any face at all. The voice was sweet and coy. That must mean you've gone and made some mistake again, you little scatterbrain. There was a smile in Zhou Sichen's voice. How can you say that about me? I'm going to be mad now. You just managed to coax me back into a good mood, and you don't cherish it at all. All right. All right. I was wrong. Okay, I'll buy you a handbag. And your wife too. I have no idea what you ever saw in her back then, but now that I've finally met her in person, she's really just so-so. She's old now, and honestly, she's nowhere near a match for you. Sue Anna. How many times have I told you not to talk bad about my wife? Joe Sechen's voice grew heavy. You're yelling at me again because of her. You just think I'm less experienced and stupid, don't you? I turned and left, no longer listening. You see, Men are just like Thathy clearly already cheated. Yet they still insist on asserting their authority in front of the mistress, as if the more deeply affectionate he seemed, the more he could dilute the few scraps of guilt left in his heart. 9. That night, I left Zhou Sicheng a WeChat message, telling him to come home early. He must have been coaxing Sue Anna. It was a long time before he replied to me. There's a dinner engagement tonight. I have to entertain a client. And if it gets too late, I won't be coming back. Go to bed early. Love you. At that very moment, I was sitting by the bed telling Little Pumpkin a bedtime story, with her eyes wide open. She asked me curiously, "Mom, why would the Little Mermaid rather turn into foam herself than tell the prince the truth?" Smiling, I said, "Because if she clung to love, she wouldn't be able to obtain an immortal, undying soul." Little Pumpkin seemed to understand, but not quite. So, did she love the prince? I thought for a moment, then said, maybe she did. Once, but she loved herself a little more. Little Pumpkin thought about it for a long time. But with her tiny little head, she probably couldn't make sense of why love could come in so many different kinds. After I coaxed her to sleep, I walked into the study and turned on the computer. I opened the chat window with Chenku. There, clearly displayed, was a personal social media profile link under the username Anna. Below it was the message Chenku had sent me. Sister Man, here's Sue Anna's social media account. Just like you asked. Do you really think she looks like some big internet celebrity? Laughing through tears if you find out. Remember to tell me too, I want to go take a look as well. Of course. I wasn't saying Sue Anna looked like an internet celebrity. That was nothing more than an excuse I made up on the spot. I only wanted to see what kind of person Zhou Sichen's affair partner was. That was all. 10. Sue Anna clearly had very little sense of protecting her personal privacy. Every few days, she would post photos of her daily life. And in those pictures, there were inevitably places where personal information hadn't been censored. After browsing her page for a dozen minutes or so, I had already figured out several of her IDs on other social platforms. After going through them one by one, I had more or less figured out her usual interests and hobbies. She often went to a bar in downtown called West Street. She liked posting about luxury designer bags and showing off large bank transfers from men. She often liked thirst trap posts from male influencers with abs. Her captions occasionally contained typos, as well as some very obvious grammatical mistakes. He would post complaints about the company and his co-workers every few days, and indiscriminately attack most of the people in the comments section. All in all, he wasn't a very hard person to figure out. Given Zhou Sichen's current wealth, Sue Anna definitely wasn't with him for love alone. I sat in the study and thought for a long time about why Zhou Sichen would be interested in a woman like that. He once praised my rationality and pragmatism as well, saying that meeting me was the luckiest thing that had ever happened in his life. As time went by, the once elegant young man had now begun to put on a little weight, and his hairline receded a little farther each year. He was no longer the man I remembered. Perhaps even his taste had changed. 11. I called my best friend, Gigi. She cursed Zhou Sichen out for over half an hour, and then agreed to my request. She said, "Girl, we grew up together sharing the same pair of underwear. If you've got any trouble, just say the word. Even if I have to climb mountains of blades or plunge into a sea of fire, I'll get it done for you." After hanging up, I suddenly burst out laughing at myself for once. I had nearly really believed that I was the princess in a fairy tale, the one who would eventually ride off into a happy ending. Perhaps life and fairy tales share something in common as well. The beautiful pumpkin carriage and the cumbersome gown will return to their original forms once the time limit has passed. Marriage is the same. 7 years. 7 months, there is no difference. Jo Sik-hen is not a prince. Nor is there a fairy godmother to save me from the depths of misery. 12. Jo Sik-hen came home later and later, and he spoke to me less and less. He even forgot the outings he had promised his daughter several times. Little Pumpkin had been stood up so many times that she was terribly upset, but she was very sensible and knew that her father was always busy with work. So she never lost her temper with her parents over such things. Only at night would she still secretly bury herself in my arms and cry. Terfew. LLY asking me. Is there something I'm doing wrong? Has Daddy stopped liking me? Otherwise. Why does he always forget the things he promised? I didn't know how to explain it. Jo Sik-hen had always been busy with his career. And he already spent little time his daughter. Now that he was juggling so many things at once, he had even less time to care about his daughter's feelings. The more one yearned for something, the more disappointed one became. In the little Pumpkin's upbringing, he, as the father, had already been absent for a very long time. 13. The turning point came on the day of my wedding anniversary with Jo Sik-hen. That day, he rarely remembered that he was actually a part of this family. He took the initiative to book a restaurant and a candlelit dinner for two, or perhaps it was because he had realized he'd been playing too hard lately. And for once he wanted to make it up to me. I guess he had even told Sue Anna in advance not to come and interrupt our night alone. Unfortunately, Jo Si-chin had forgotten that we also had a 3-year-old daughter. In order not to ruin the dinner he had painstakingly prepared, I sent little Pumpkin to Gigi's place ahead of time. Before leaving, Gigi took little Pumpkin by the hand and, smiling, tipped her chin toward me. Wishing you nothing but smooth sailing. Of course it would go smoothly. After all, this was one of the rare moments when Jo Si-ching had a sudden attack of conscience. Everything had to go smoothly. The atmosphere in the restaurant was suggestive and intimate. The flickering candlelight reflected in Jo Si-ching's eyes. His gaze was gentle as he took my hand. Man, you've had it hard all these years. The company's been busy lately, and I haven't had time to keep you company. You won't blame me, will you? I quietly pulled my hand back, lifted my glass of red wine, and took a sip, smiling brightly. You've worked so hard for this family, how could I ever bear to blame you? The elegant piano music poured down like moonlight. Jo Sik-hen gazed at her with a dazed, intoxicated look. Man, tonight we. His words were cut short by a ringing phone. Jo Sik-hen glanced at the caller ID, frowned, and answered. I didn't know what had been said on the other end, but his expression suddenly turned terribly grim. I watched him hang up with a darkened face, his chest rising and falling as he clearly held back a surge of frustration. But perhaps because I was there, he was embarrassed to let it out. Keep high, kept up the knife and fork in his hands, then set them down again, looking utterly restless. To be honest, his acting was really rather clumsy. I didn't ask him what had happened. I kept my head down and went on eating at an unhurried pace. Before half a minute had passed, he still couldn't hold back any longer. Man, something urgent came up at the company. I have to go over right away. He spoke hesitantly, though his hand was already reaching for his coat. I'm sorry. After you're done eating, go home by yourself first. I'll be back very soon. Okay. I nodded considerately. He immediately stood up and left, his steps so chaotic they had no pattern at all. Yet he still remembered to pay the bill. I watched his retreating figure, slowly straightening my back before picking up a napkin to wipe my mouth. tired, aren't you? Joe Sickhen. Just how much longer can you keep pretending? 14. Joe Sickhen indeed came home very quickly, compared with the rush and chaos when he left. He looked like a defeated rooster when he returned home, dusty, disheveled, and utterly dejected. Well, that made sense. After all, she was going to catch her husband cheating. After all, the little flower he had pampered and cherished with his own hands had, in the blink of an eye, hooked up with a younger man, whoever it was. They'd never be able to swallow that kind of humiliation. Let me guess right now. He's probably still wondering whether, on those nights when Sue Anna wasn't with him, she'd been with some other man instead. Suspicion is the best seasoning between the sexes, and all I need to do is offer just the right amount of comfort to keep his heart steady. Poor Joe Sickhen. He's really fallen in love. I pulled him into my arms, gently patting his back as if soothing a child. You work so hard. I feel so sorry for you. Honey, in front of the floor-length mirror, I let a faint, almost imperceptible cold smile surface. With his back to the mirror, Joe Sickhen hunched forward, his head buried deep in the crook of my neck, his body trembling slightly. Though he felt so tormented inside, he still did not dare tell me a single word of the truth. After a long silence, he let out a heavy sigh and said softly, Man, I love you. I smiled and kissed his forehead. I love you too. Forever. 15. Sue Anna really was not someone to be trifled with. She was even more foolish than I had imagined. After breaking up with Joe Sickhen, she was fired by the HR department on the grounds of insufficient work ability. And she didn't even make it through the probation period. Sue Anna was obviously unwilling to accept this outcome. She felt that Joe Sickhen was using his authority to settle a personal grudge, so she made a huge scene at the company, exposing Joe Sickhen's affair with her to everyone. Joe Sickhen turned livid with rage and, caring nothing for old ties, directly had security throw her out. At that time, I had just come to the company to see Joe Sickhen. Sue Anna found my car in the underground garage, pounding wildly on my car window and screaming hysterically, You damned woman. This has to be your doing behind the scenes. Wasn't he supposed to be spending your anniversary with you? Why did he suddenly come knocking on my door? Can't you even keep a man with this little bit of skill? If you can't keep him, then just give him to me. You're already this old, and he's already cheated on you. Why are you still clinging to him? Don't you find yourself disgusting? I did think it was pretty disgusting, but seeing Sue Anna's frantic breakdown made me find it even funnier. I rolled the car window down a thin crack, making sure she could hear what I said. What? You still think you can take my place? I asked her with a smile. Sue Anna flushed red with anger. What do you mean by that? He said he'd divorce you. You're not that young anymore. Do you really believe the things a man says when his lower half is doing the thinking? I lifted my eyelids and looked at her. Why do you think Joe Sickhen will divorce me because of you? He loves me. He's long since fallen out of love with you. What do you think you are? Sue Anna screamed at me hysterically, her eyes bloodshot, her face twisted with manic fury. First, the company was founded by Joe Sickhen and me after our marriage, which makes it marital property. If he divorces me, half of everything he owns right now has to be split with me, and as the party at fault for cheating, he'll lose even more. That money is far more than enough to buy you 2 handbags. I could even sue to get those handbags back. As the lawful wife, I looked into her eyes, my smile deepening. Do you think President Joe would fail to do the math on that? Do you really think he has no feelings for me anymore? I paused amused. and looked at her. Guess why he doesn't allow you to say even a single bad word about me? Sue Anna stood frozen in place. That's how it is. Men are just like that. They want this, want that, and still want more. They hope the red flag at home never falls, while the colored flags outside keep fluttering. And besides, I paused, letting my gaze sweep from the top of her to the bottom. Everyone in the company knows me, with your credentials. Do you really think that even if you did get to the top, you'd have any way of winning people over? You think I kept Joe Sickhen around because of love? I said with a faint smile. Sue Anna, you're being far too naive. She stared at me in disbelief, as if meeting me for the very first time today. Just before I left, I suddenly remembered something and asked her. Oh right. That male model I arranged for you, his body was pretty good, wasn't it? Sue Anna's eyes flickered slightly, as if she had realized something. Her face went pale, and she trembled, her lips quivering as she was unable to speak. Overseas educated returnee. Rich second generation. Corporate executive. Annual salary in the millions. Gentle and considerate. Generous and lavish. I smiled, my eyes curving with amusement. A character profile custom made for you. Should be right up your alley, shouldn't it? Sue Anna let out a scream of utter, heart-rending misery. The next second, she kicked off her high heels and was about to smash my car window. Bitch. Slut. You won't die a good death. By then, I had already slammed on the accelerator and pulled out of the parking spot, leaving her standing there to choke on my exhaust. 16. The gossip at the company eventually made its way to my ears. I was prepared to sit down with Joe Sicheng for a long, heart-to-heart talk. I said, I never thought you'd cheat on me. I can't accept it. I said, we were so good together. Did I do something wrong? I said, Joe Sickhen, I feel sick. I want a divorce. As I spoke, overcome with emotion, I even let 2 tears fall. Joe Sickhen naturally refused. He frantically admitted his mistakes and softened his tone. He even knelt before me and swore that he would never make such a mistake again. I looked at him without speaking, falling into a long silence, so burdened by guilt toward me. Joe Sichen's attitude began to grow increasingly humble and deferential. He also started coming home more often, and his words grew sweeter too. He even began cooking despite having never set foot in the kitchen in all his years. The time he spent with Little Pumpkin also gradually increased. To be honest, watching him look so frightened and uneasy was actually rather amusing. Sue Anna never appeared in my life again. Right now, Joe Sicheng was dying to stay as far away from her as possible. She would never get the chance to tell him everything I had done. Even if she did, Joe Sicheng would still choose to believe me. After all, between a mistress who straddled 2 boats and a loyal, responsible good wife and good mother, who wouldn't know which one to believe? Joe Sichen's parents came to my door in person to plead his case, asking me to forgive his momentary folly in consideration of all the years we'd been together. Things had come to this point, and it seemed I should have known when to stop. I told Joe Sickhen that my mind was still in a mess, and I needed to get out for a while, calm down, and think things over between us. I was going to Sonia with Gigi for a trip. Without saying a word, Joe Sickhen directly booked the plane tickets for Gigi and me, and told me to make sure I had a really good time. As for him, he stayed home take care of the child. 17. Gigi and I were lying on the beach in Sonia, soaking up the sun. She pushed her sunglasses up and, raising an eyebrow, asked me, You really aren't planning to divorce him. Once someone cheats, it's either 0 times or countless times. I laughed. We'll see. He's behaving pretty well right now. Gigi snorted. Stupid. That's just a trick to fool you. That damn bastard knows perfectly well you can't leave him. Let's put that aside for now. I deemed myself up and looked at Gigi. I might need to borrow another female artist from you later on. Gigi rolled her eyes. You're even getting addicted to this. Huh. So I'm part of your little play now too. I'll say it again. I run a proper entertainment company. Not some chicken coop or duck shed. Hey, I paid. Isn't that still just a flock of chickens and ducks? 18. After coming back from Sonia, I didn't bring up the divorce again. Joe Sikhen had also reverted to his former image as a devoted, deeply affectionate good man. Gradually, it seemed that no one mentioned his affair anymore. I still picked up and dropped off the children from school, cook, Ed, did the housework, and played the role of a proper full-time wife. He and I remained as stable as ever. Our relationship the envy of others. It was just that in places where outsiders couldn't see, I wouldn't even let him touch me. In fact, after Little Pumpkin was born, the quality of our sex life took a nosedive. Ever since I found out he was cheating outside, I started coming up with all kinds of excuses to refuse intimacy with him, but Joe Sikhen was probably more than happy to take it easy. After all, Sue Anna was still there to comfort him then. He probably could only barely handle one woman at a time. Anyway, but now, the wildflower he'd taken has been plucked by me, and I refused to let him touch me, so he seemed to be enduring it with great difficulty, wearing a face every day like he was constipated. I was curious. Could a man who has tasted forbidden fruit really still hold himself back without wavering? Joe Sikhen. How long can you endure? That day, a file arrived in my inbox. It was a sample contract for the sale of adaptation rights for a novel-to-screen project. I knew the time had almost come. I sent Chinko from administration a model's resume. This one looks pretty good to me. My friend recommended her internally. So let's choose her for the company's new product promotion. Don't tell Joe Sicheng that I handpicked her. I don't want him using someone he has his eye on. The other party was naturally a shrewd old hand. She knew perfectly well about the little business in Joe Sicheng's pants. When Sue Anna's matter first came out, she even went out of her way to send me a message to comfort me. Okay, sister man. I'll do whatever you. 19. Just as I'd expected, Joe Sicheng's loyalty to marriage was CERO. The new model had only been at the company for a month before he cheated again. The two of them were kissing in the office, and I caught them with my own eyes. I have to say, the people Gigi trained really were obedient and effective. Take the initiative fast, precise, and ruthless. EY handled things without the slightest hesitation or drag. The message was sent very promptly as well. As expected, a man who has tasted the forbidden is least able to refuse a woman throwing herself into his arms. This time, the matter caused an even bigger uproar than Sue Anna's affair loss. Tea time. Joe Sikhen lost face all the way to the Pacific. His romantic scandal became the staff's favorite gossip over tea and idle chatter. After all, he had always presented himself as a man who was devoted and indulgent to his wife. The employees ate that up too, and held him in considerable respect. Although the last incident with Sue Anna had blown up spectacularly, many employees still didn't believe Joe Sikhen would cheat. They all assumed Sue Anna had been fired and was deliberately smearing her boss. But now, the image of him as a deeply devoted man had completely shattered. To everyone's astonishment, once Joe Sicheng's glossy, handsome exterior was peeled away, what lay beneath was nothing more than a rotten cucumber. This time, Even Joe Sechen's parents didn't know how to bring themselves to persuade me again. I wouldn't listen to a single explanation. I was dead set on getting a divorce. I said, Joe Sichen, I've completely given up on you. Joe Sichen lit cigarette after cigarette. And seeing that there was no hope of winning me back, he could only silently agree. Perhaps, as he too felt that there was truly no need for this marriage to go on any longer. The division of assets went very smoothly. Perhaps it was because he felt guilty. Or perhaps because there was still a trace of feeling left for me. But Joe Sichen did not struggle at all over this matter. He s. Aid man. Your writing doesn't earn much money. And you've spent so many years of your youth by my side. I'm the one who's wronged you. I won't shortchange you of a single thing that's due to you. The house. The Carrie didn't bother with any politeness at all. I said, I'm not good at running a business. Cash out my equity and give me the money. From this day on, this company will have nothing whatsoever to do with me. So he scrambled everywhere to raise the funds and transferred the sky-high buyout fee into my bank card. The very next day after I got the divorce certificate in H.N., my copyright adaptation contract was also formally signed and took effect. 3 days later, I received a copyright fee of 2 million yuan, enough for me to buy an apartment in the city center. After the divorce, the property was my personal income. Joe Sichen only knew that writing articles did not earn me as much as running a company did for him. He had no idea just how valuable the film and television adaptation rights to one of my books really were. Overnight, I became a rich single woman, with assets far surpassing Joe Sechen's. Little Pumpkin was also awarded to me, because I had fulfilled my duties conscientiously throughout her upbringing, taking meticulous care of her in every way, and because I was emotionally stable and never flew into a rage. The child had already grown used to being with me. On the other hand, Joe Sichen didn't even know that the little pumpkin was allergic to certain fruits. He really never let me down. 20. I don't know how much the divorce hit Joe Sichen, but a large amount of equity transfer fees and discounted costs of the house are estimated to overwhelm him, coupled with the cheating door that made a lot of noise when we divorced. The company's image was also grayed with him, and the market price plummeted all the way. Many of the original partners have canceled their cooperation because of the influence of Joe Sechen's reputation. In just half a month, the company's market value has shrunk to only half of the original. I heard that Joe Sichen was so worried every day that he couldn't even eat. 21. When I saw Joe Sichen again, it was at the door of my newly bought house. He was waiting for me at my door with fruit and sweets. He has changed too much. His body is rickety, and his hair is a lot whiter. Looking at his face again, he seems to be more than 10 years old suddenly. Even the little pumpkin didn't recognize him immediately. She timidly hid behind me, and then shouted hesitantly, Dad. Joe Sechen's face quickly became a little happy, and he opened his arms to the little pumpkin and responded heartily. The little pumpkin pounced on it in surprise. I opened the door and let him into the house, and sat face to face with him in the living room drinking tea and chatting. Little Pumpkin is doing his homework in the room. He still called me man. He had gentle eyebrows and eyes, recalled a bunch of past memories, and finally said to me, I heard you've been doing well lately. Then, as I expected, he wanted to borrow money from me. I smiled and refused, leaving no room for it. Joe Sichen, when you cheated on yourself in marriage and slept with other women, didn't you expect that you would have such a day? Didn't you give up the opportunity to go out with your daughter to cultivate a relationship and hang out with your little lover? Joe Sichen was a little embarrassed, and he didn't know where to put his hands. I got up and handed him back the bag of mangoes he had brought. Also, little pumpkin is allergic to mango. Don't you know until now? In the end, Zhou Siken held his tail between his legs and left in despair. He didn't even dare to say goodbye to the little pumpkin. The daughter stood at the door, looking at his back in disappointment. Dad really hasn't changed at all. 22. It looks like another 3 months. I heard many old employees of the company have resigned. I am currently the director of publicity at Gigi. Gigi is a rich second generation. And her family lacks everything. That is, she is not short of money and connections. Almost all the old employees who have a good friendship with me, professional counterparts, have been pried into Gigi's company. Wrong. I also followed Gigi's instructions and introduced them to other companies with good prospects. Those are all talents who have stayed behind after washing the sand. And their professionalism is strong, with the reliable personality I laid in the early days of entrepreneurship. Even if I haven't worked with them for several years, they believe in my character enough. Gigi looked at the resume and almost sparked, and gave me a thumbs up again and again, said that my friend was really not in vain. It not only filled the vacancy, but also helped her sell a wave of favors. I said it a long time ago. Zhou Siken doesn't have you. It's not a fart. You are really confused about early marriage. And when you go out, you say you haven't been married. And the little pumpkin was born by the father and daughter. Don't say that you have anything to do with Zhou Siken. It's really embarrassing. It's a stain on your lip. 23. It was a full 6 months after Zhou Siken and I divorced that he finally seemed to wake up to what had happened. One evening, he called me, with his voice raised to a furious roar on the other end of the line. He shouted, "Shin man, tell me straight, were those senior executives at the company all poached by you? You've got no conscience at all. Isn't ruining me like this enough for you? Are you trying to drive me to my death?" I don't understand, I replied coolly. Zhou Siken was so furious he blurted out a string of curses. Stop pretending to be innocent with me. I ran into Sue Anna on the road today, and she said everything that happened back then was all you're doing. You'd already planned to divorce me and SPL. It the assets. Hadn't you? You just wanted to ruin me. All the years we've been married, all that feeling between yous, it's all been fed to the dogs. Oh, I drawled lazily. Mr. Zhou, are you saying that you didn't cheat on your own? But that I planned everything and forced you to fall out of love, personally sending you to Sue Anna's bed? Is that right? Zhou Siken was so enraged he nearly choked on his words. I was wrong to cheat. But you can't just. Oh. So what you're saying is that even though you cheated, I still have to forgive you, diligently play the role of a dutiful wife and mother, and spare no effort to redeem you with love. I laughed out loud. Zhou Siken, where in the world do you find such a beautiful arrangement? Chin man, you used to be so kind. How did you become like this now? I thought enough of our past that, when it came to dividing the assets, I kept you in mind the whole time. I never even thought of skimping on your share. Zhou Siken ground out between clenched teeth. You really do have a thick face. Turning the benefits I was entitled to into your charitable gift. I lowered my eyes, my tone laced with mockery. I had long known that the day would come when Zhou Siken and I would tear each other apart. That was also why I hadn't exposed his affair right away. If when we divorced, I ended up in a bitter standoff with him, he would surely make moves out of time to tamper with the division of assets. After all, Zhou Siken had held his ground in the company for so many years. Once he resorted to extraordinary means to transfer assets in advance, I would be left in an extremely passive position, and it would be much harder for me to fight for my own interests. So, I had to play the role of Mrs. Joe deaf and blind, without showing the slightest hint of it, and love him with all my heart. I took advantage of Joe Sechen's feelings for me. Though he loved me, he still could not resist the temptation of sneaking around the laissez, where I seemed of his infidelity. The more guilty he would feel toward me, the more considerate I was. The more his conscience was put to the rack, all propriety and righteousness on the surface, yet drifting and unsteady within. 12 years I understood him far too well, and once he felt he had wronged me and wanted to make it up to me, then I could safely get my hands on the money that was mine, perhaps even on the day he got the divorce certificate. He was still thinking about when he could remarry me. After all, in his eyes, I loved him so deeply. How could I ever leave him? Not meeting your expectations must be quite disappointing for you. I curved my lips into a faint smile and said to Joe Sechen on the other end of the phone, "By the way, not only was your catching Sue Anna in the act orchestrated by me, but the female model you cheated with the second time was arranged by me too." So Joe Sechen. How thrilling was the taste of sneaking around. The other end of the line fell silent for a long while, before a loud crash of something being violently smashed rang out. "Chin man. Just you wait. I will never let you get away with this." Joe Sechen's voice had grown so frenzied it was horribly distorted. "Say something else. I'm recording this," I said flatly. Joe Sechen fell completely silent. "Oh right. I heard your current fiancé is already 3 months pregnant. Congratulations," I said with a smile. "But I may have some bad news for you. You probably haven't forgotten that we used to go for physical checkups every year. Have you? You were always busy with work, so I was the one who picked up the test results every time. Do you remember me praising you? Saying that your health indicators were excellent every year. Since we're already divorced, there's nothing much left for me to hide from you now." I enunciated each word, deliberately slowing my speech to make sure he could hear me clearly. "Actually, after Little Pumpkin was born, your sperm motility got worse year by year. The doctor said that with your condition, it would be very hard for you to have children again in the future. I was afraid it would hurt your pride, so I never told you. I just quietly made you nourishing soups. Does your fiancé know about this?" I asked him with a smile. "She must have made you restorative soups too, right?" There was silence on the other end of the phone for a full half-minute. Then Joe Sechen hung up without a word. Gigi beside me licked her ice cream and silently gave me a thumbs up. Heartless. 24. I leaned against the railing of the amusement park, watching Little Pumpkin ride the carousel. She was having so much fun, as if she had forgotten all the troubles in the world. Then, did I win this battle? After all, I wonder. Once Little Pumpkin grows up, once she comes to understand these things, whether she will have a different opinion of the role of dad. But before that, through the countless beautiful moments to come, I would stay by her side, even if her life were to go on without the role of a father. She would still be the happiest little child in the world, and I would also teach her that the first prerequisite for loving anyone is to love yourself first. I would personally give her a pumpkin carriage with no expiration and a magnificent, ornate dress. I want her not a compromise,